Donald Trump is incurring a lot of criticism lately on the Ukrainian war. He's trying to negotiate an end to the war. Remember, the majority of Americans will, I think, see what Donald Trump has to deal with. Usually in international diplomacy, the client doesn't dictate to the patron, especially when the patron is hosting him. So there was a breach of protocol. They're very close to an agreement. There's only one or two issues now. They've got everything solved. They will not be in NATO, but they are the best armed NATO country that's not in NATO. They are very formidable. They're not going to get back the Donbass and Crimea. Nobody ever thought they could. That was just rhetorical. So why did Donald Trump say that? Well, of course, he doesn't believe that Zelenskyy started the war because he has campaigned himself on the following narrative. Under George Bush in 2008, Russia invaded Ossetia and Georgia. In 2014, under the Obama administration, they invaded the Donbass and Crimea. February 24th of 2022, under Joe Biden, they tried to take Kiev. However, of the last four administrations, there was one in which they did not leave their borders to invade another nation. My administration. Why? Because unlike the prior three presidents, I was able to establish deterrence. There's just two issues. How far will Vladimir Putin be willing to go back to his 2020 embarkation point? And number two, how will you deter him not to do it again? And the answer is that Donald Trump came up with a very innovative idea to have a DMZ somewhere near where he, along the border, 100 miles, 50 miles, 60 miles, or no miles where they came, and then having a commercial zone. So there's Americans there, they're profiting, they get paid back, and Vladimir Putin does not want to invade and kill Americans, which he'd have to do because the concessions are right on the border. We say we're not putting troops there. We are not putting troops there, but we're going to profit from it along with Ukraine. It'll enrich Ukraine, we'll get Europeans, and there will be a commercial corridor, and Putin will not go in there because if he does, he will face some consequences.
Ukrainians survive without Congress support, of course.
Go on and fight. He wants to come back right now, but I can't do that.
What do you make of that? Do you want to continue fighting? Do you want peace? And if you had the opportunity to go back to the White House right now, would you do it?
No.
Can Ukraine win this war or hold off Russia without continued U.S. support?
It will be difficult for us. That's all.
The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war. And they will have to fight because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying.
What he has to say is, Mr. Trump, we help, we appreciate your help, and we understand your 2 points now. You are afraid that Russia is closer to China and China is closer to Russia than they are to us, and that violated every tenet of Kissinger's foreign policy, that we have to deter the one with the other. And we've lost that because of the war. And number two, they have 7,000 nuclear weapons. So we don't want to get into a Cold War situation like Cuba, where our main rival is trying to use a surrogate to hurt us, the way Khrushchev did.
Victor Trump achieved deterrence against Putin by projecting unpredictability and strength, avoiding major wars while decisively striking enemies like ISIS and Russian mercenaries, keeping Putin cautious during his tenure.
How did I do that? I killed Soleimani, I killed Baghdadi, I destroyed ISIS, I got rid of the Wagner. I did a lot of things that put the fear of God into Vladimir Putin. So what he's trying to say is that this war has been going on for 3 years. And the Europeans said they were going to come in this exultation when the Russian attack on Kiev was thwarted. This guy in a t-shirt, ex-comedian, was a rock star. Everybody was going to pour weapons in and save Ukraine. We did more than either any European power or NATO in aggregate. And guess what? It didn't work. 3 years later, 1.5 million casualties later, a quarter of the Ukrainian population gone, 600,000 Russians gone, a new alliance between Russia and China. Trump wants to stop it. And he says to Zelenskyy, don't tell me what I can do and what I can't do. Don't say you have to be in the negotiations. You guys have had 3 years. I'm coming in. We have funded you. More importantly, there's a subtext to this. He's also saying, we don't want you in NATO. Europe really doesn't want you in NATO. Russia doesn't want you in NATO, and you're scared to be in NATO yourself. If you invite American business in to Ukraine to help rebuild it and to profit thereby with natural resources, you're going to have Americans there, and Putin will be less eager to attack you if he understands there's a thriving American concession there.
In the world that has any chance. If Donald Trump tomorrow decides, I don't care about Ukraine, I don't care about Russia, and I don't care about this war, and he walks away, I ask you, I ask everyone, well, who on this planet has any chance whatsoever, even a 1% chance, of getting the combatants to the table? The answer is there is no one.
You're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out.
Donald Trump ends this bloodbath all of this rhetoric and all of this hysteria will cease, and he will be a hero both in Europe and the United States and in Ukraine and Russia. Zelenskyy has canceled opposition parties, suppressed opposition press, suspended elements of habeas corpus, and suspended elections. Even Churchill didn't have election for 10 years. Churchill came in, and the first thing he did in 1940 was have a coalition government of enemies, rivals, and friends in the war cabinet. Zelenskyy hasn't done that.
Did you sign the mineral?